Greg Tepper of Dave Campbell's Texas Football and TexasFootball.com. Here at the THSCA Coaching School and Convention here in beautiful San Antonio, Texas, with a man who made a long trip to get here. The head coach of the El Paso Pebble Hills Spartans. It's Coach Mark Torres. Coach, did you drive?
We drove, yes. We brought 17 coaches from our school. There's 12 football and 3 lady coaches. And, well, maybe it's 13 football and 3 lady coaches.
Golly.
So 17 of us, 2 vans. We left before 5:30 a.m. this morning.
How much driving did you do?
None.
Yeah, that's the head coach.
Not one
That's the head
leg.
coach. He's got to get that in. So let's talk some Spartans football. Last year, one of the stories of the state, a team that, still in infancy, to go up there and put yourself in the conversation of, best team in El Paso.
Right.
It was that. How'd you do it? I mean, it seems like a simple question, but it just seems so remarkable. You don't see teams in their second year like this have these breakout years like 8-3 and get to the playoffs. What was it about what was it about last year's team that got you there?
Well, it's like anything. It's just a combination of things, and it starts at the top, which is not me. Our administration does a great job of allowing us to schedule the way we need to schedule our day, which is important, and then allowing us to hire the coaches that we need to get through and teach our kids how to play. So that's the most important thing. So our administration and our assistant coaches, and we did a great job of getting some good assistant coaches, and those kids bought in. They trust the guys that we have there on our staff, and just being really a psychologist, I guess, that first year, the first varsity year, and just making sure the kids could find a simple way to improve, whether that was in wins or just basic improvement week to week. They were able to do that. I think they trust our coaching staff, and the results were what they were. So,
do you think this is the tip of the iceberg? Do you think that when you talk about and not necessarily next year, not necessarily in 2018, but do you think that was that year is a sign of things to come? Because I'll tell you that if you look over the course of history, programs that do have those kind of breakout second years tend to turn into powers, at least in their own region. Do you feel like that could be the case for Pebble Hills?
Well, I mean, we sure hope so, and that's what we're working to do. I do think what's important is to recognize that it is a completely different team, and our approach will be the same. What we actually do will probably be a little bit different, just to cater to the players that we have. But I would like to think so. I would like to think that we're in a position to where our community is growing right around the school, and it would be great for us to be one of those programs.
And it's kind of a philosophical question about football, but you guys are going to have a lot of new faces. You guys just bring back 3 starters from last year's breakout squad. How much of your philosophy is to fit the players to the scheme versus fit the scheme to the players?
That's exactly the philosophy.
Yeah.
It is, we're not allowed to recruit. We don't handpick our players. We don't draft them. Mm-hmm. It's not the NFL. It's not big time college football. We get who we get, and that's really what I love the most about our level. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to only get who you're supposed to get, and that's the key for us. We love up our kids. Really trying to develop each person as they come through is the goal. And if the results are seasons like we had last year, then I'm really happy with that.
You are losing a lot of, you guys are going to be a pretty young team, a team that's going to be pretty young. How important is it for you guys to get a couple of seniors to really step up and grab the reins? Because last year, you had a lot of them. You had a lot of guys who could be that guy. How important is it going to be for you to find 1 or 2 guys? And do you have an idea of who those guys are going to be?
Well, they know. Yep. And even though we're losing starters, that doesn't mean that we're losing letterman.
Yeah.
We were fortunate to be in some situations last year where we played a lot of guys for a quarter and a half or even a half of a game. So those kids will be on the field. They're just not recognized as returning starters. And, so that's a chip on their shoulder, that they're not seen as a playmaker. And our theme this year is unproven. So we're ranked fairly high in your magazine, which we appreciate. But I think they understand that that's all based on last year's group and what the other coaches around the city might have to say about us. But the seniors that are back were some big-time players. Caleb Gerber, on the offensive line, Mario Carmona, and then one of our linebackers, Jonas Christmas. They were all tremendous players for us last year. And so they stepped right in and carried on what they're supposed to do in their leadership roles throughout the entire offseason. So I think we already recognize who those players might be.
Let's talk. You mentioned Caleb Gerber, and this is a kid who I hope, like we know about him because we cover the state. I hope the state knows about him because this kid is awesome.
Right.
This kid's. I mean, I hate to fanboy out on him, but this
Right.
kid is really, really good. As the guy who gets to see him every day in practice, what is it about him that sets him apart?
He's very humble.
Yeah.
He is humble. He does work hard, and he is a team guy. And he really is a team guy, and really proud. We got some news this morning. I don't know if you've heard, but he was selected to the Blue-Gray All-American Bowl.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, so he was invited to the game. He'll be playing at AT&T Stadium on January 28th. So that's another feather in our cap as far as the program goes. But he's a leader by example more than anything, and it would be really easy for a kid like him to say, I'm good where I am. Let me just do what I'm doing. But what we asked him to do was to gain a little weight coming into this next season, and he did just that. He went and had a great track season in the spring, and he looks more like a football player now, and he really does. And his physique and the way he looked on the track compared to other kids was really important to us. So his off season was great.
He's a really, really impressive kid to watch. If you ever get if you're watching this and you haven't seen him, Google Caleb Gerber and just watch some highlights. It'll really wow you. So you mentioned there's a lot of guys, a lot of lettermen you guys have coming back. Is there one guy that you've got targeted that you think, all right, he could be the household name? He could be a guy who people don't know about now that they're going to know about in week 8.
I don't know if there's one guy, but I'll give you a couple names.
That's
I will say C.J. Bionis is a senior. He was our goal line quarterback, our backup quarterback, stepped in for Orlando a few times last year, and he's an important piece to our puzzle, and he's going to probably play all kinds of different positions for us. He's had an outstanding offseason. He had a really good spring ball. And we just think with his size, he grew a little bit. He's probably upwards of 6'2" or 6'3" now. I think he's going to be an impact player. I just couldn't tell you exactly where it's going to be on the field. And then a junior coming up, his name is Isaiah Davis, and he's a wide receiver. So here's a kid who is incredibly talented. He's a basketball player as well, and he does have the size. He has some good genes. His older brother is a center for UT San Antonio. He plays on the football team. So. And he's got a lot of confidence about himself. So I think Isaiah Davis will be somebody to look out for, and he'll be a junior, and C.J. Bionis, who will be a senior.
I love El Paso football, and one of the things that I think is so woefully underappreciated, I think, and I'm very interested in your opinion, I think the depth of coaching out there in San Antonio, or in El Paso rather, is really impressive. And I feel like people don't necessarily recognize how many really good coaches there are out there, and how you're going into a schedule every single year, and of the 10 games you play, 8 of them are going to have really, really good coaches, at least. You're lucky if you get 2 that, maybe they're on their way out or something like that. But there's so much depth of coaching out there that from your perspective, I feel like you got to be on your game every single week from a coaching perspective.
Well, yes, and I think one of the big things is that it's a little bit different every week too. In a lot of leagues you might see the same base defense or the same kind of offensive philosophy, and we don't see that. So we will go one week, we open up with El Dorado. It remains to be seen what they'll be doing this year. And then we play Midland High. Midland High was on the rise. They just got better every single week last year and had a chance to beat Montwood in the Biders round. So they're going to be tough. Chapin's always good. And then, the best team in West Texas last year and going into this year is San Angelo. And I've known Brent Davis for a long, long time. So coaching one of his teams is a challenge as well. They're always excited to play. They force you to make mistakes. And, they generously picked us for homecoming. So we'll be traveling to San Angelo to visit Brent and the Bobcats. And then we return home. J.J. Calderon at Eastlake is a great coach. Melton's a good coach, and he's got his own little style that he does. Bobby Anderson is a heck of a coach. And the best coach we have, Famaligi, and he's been the same amount of time as I've been, and he's doing a great job at Montwood. And, of course, the coach that that I think is the best in El Paso is Darren Walker. I worked for him at Franklin, and we will play them near the end of the season. And he's accomplished so much, and they're going to be back. They're very experienced. They've played a tough schedule every single year, and they're looking to get back near the top of the district for sure.
He is Mark Torres. He's the head coach of the El Paso Pebble Hill Spartans, and he is going to spin the Dick's Sporting Goods question wheel. I tell every coach this. There's not a question on here that's going to get you fired, but you are legally obligated to answer the question truthfully. This is like putting your hand on the Bible.
Legally obligated.
It's the Dick's Sporting Goods question wheel. Give this thing a spin. You're going to answer whatever.
The legal question wheel.
Yeah, you're legally bound.
Okay.
Oh, see, he's looking at it. He's worried.
I didn't look at it.
He's worried what it's going to come up with Mark Torres. All right. Obviously, Texas is your favorite state in the union.
Yes.
That goes without saying.
No, absolutely.
What's your second favorite state in the union?
No.
No?
No.
You're not going to do it?
There's no second favorite. It's not on that. It says barbecue sauce.
No, I'm sorry. It says it rolled over. It was on favorite state. I promise.
Favorite state.
So what's is Texas? That's
Texas.
one. What's number two? I know. I told you it's not going to get you fired, though.
But, well, I mean.
Let's put it this way.
Okay.
There's Texas.
Right.
There's a considerable gap.
Yes.
And then there's number two.
Okay.
Who is number two?
You know what? My wife and I went to New York City.
Yep.
And I was really frustrated when I first got there. I like West Texas, open space.
Huh?
You know, plenty of elbow room, and we didn't get that right away. But when we left, I told her we have to go back. So I will say New York.
Okay.
I will say New York. And from what I understand, there's open spaces in New York.
You're feeling.
So we're going to go.
Max,
find
you
those.
lived in New York. Is there open spaces? He's nodding. There's open spaces somewhere in New York.
All right.
I thought that was a layup question. You could have just said anything. You know, a favorite vacation spot.
When you're proud, you're proud.
This is a man. This is Mark Torres. He's trustworthy because you know that he doesn't have a second favorite state. It's just Texas.
Look at our logo.
It's just Texas. That is a sweet logo, by the way.
Thank you.
Excellent. You've done excellent.
Thank you very much.
Coach Mark Torres, the El Paso Pebble Hill Spartans. Coach, appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.